Jetsunma presents children's stories about the power of loving kindness.
Lotus. More years ago than a beach has seashells, there lived a little girl called Lotus. She had scruffy black hair and bright, beady eyes. She lived in the tropical land of Lee. Lotus loved birds. They were delicate and frail, but they could rise like arrows into the sky. They could soar, glide, and dive. It made her heart flutter to see them. Every day, Lotus saved some of her food for the birds. Pieces of bread, nuts, mango, banana, whatever she had. She placed the food on a wide, flat rock, and the birds came swooping down. Blue and yellow parrots with shiny eyes and curving beaks, squawking myna birds, even a little white seagull that hobbled on a twisted foot. "You leave your brains in the bean patch?" her mother snapped. "We're too poor to waste good food like that." "I don't mind sharing," Lotus replied. "I can live on less food." "But you're so thin. You're light as a feather. Soon you'll be flying in the sky like one of those birds." Lotus giggled. "I wish I could." "Well, you'd better eat," her mother said. "Survival race is coming. You'll need your strength." Lotus nodded respectfully. "Yes, Mama, I practice running every day." But she kept on sharing her food with the birds, especially the lame seagull she called Little Cloud. Lotus, of course, had no idea who Little Cloud really was. Survival race happened once a year. All the girls who were 10 years old, the age of both hands, had to enter, and this year Lotus was 10. Sad to say, Lee was ruled by a harsh, cruel queen. 20 years ago, she had invented, for her own amusement, the terrible contest called Survival Race. The girls were forced to run a long, rugged course cut through the jungle. It was a wide strip of land filled with snares and quicksand and hidden pits. The queen ordered her soldiers to prepare the obstacles carefully. Just before the start, they sprinkled the course with angry snakes. No girl had ever died during the race. Soldiers always released them from the perilous traps. Even so, some of the contestants had been seriously injured. But the winner received honor and glory beyond belief. The first girl to cross the finish line became a royal princess. She lived at the palace in luxury and splendor. There were now 20 princesses, winners of past races. People whispered that they sat on velvet cushions eating mouth-watering delicacies from solid gold plates. The winners even had a chance to become the next queen, for when the old queen died, the new queen would be selected from among the princesses by the ceremony of drawing feathers. The morning of the race, Lotus filled the offering bowls on the altar with special care. Then she and her mother prayed extra long to the great deities, the ones who are closer than you think. After that, they gratefully enjoyed a big, nourishing breakfast. "Eat a lot," her mother said. "You'll need your energy and stamina." "Thank you, Mama," said Lotus. "I know we can't afford this." But to her mother's dismay, Lotus saved some of the food for the birds. Little Cloud, who was quite tame now, stood with his good foot curled around the girl's finger. He gobbled nuts from the palm of her other hand. "There's a big race today," Lotus told him. "Wish me luck." Little Cloud cocked his head, looking at her sideways. He nodded as if he understood. Survival race began at noon, the time of no shadows, beneath the blazing sun. The heat was one of the many obstacles. This year there was a huge crowd of 10-year-old girls. Lotus recognized a few of them. The girls jostled roughly for position at the starting line. The larger ones fought their way to the front, but that didn't mean they were the fastest runners. A sharp elbow poked Lotus in the chest. A fat girl stepped on her foot, but the pain soon went away. She was pushed and shoved to the back of the crowd. The chief soldier blew the starting horn. The girls rushed forward, squealing and screaming. Lotus was left far behind. Up ahead, girls fell into branch-covered pits, ran into hidden snares. Others dodged hissing snakes, sank into patches of quicksand. When they yelled for help, soldiers pulled them free. But that took time. Lotus was steadily catching up. In her mind and heart, she prayed to the great deities. On and on they raced. Lotus passed a long line of exhausted girls. Her feet were sore. She had a cramp like a knife in her side. Way in the distance, she could see the bright red finish banner stretched between two palm trees. Only 4 girls in a tight group were ahead of her now. Their legs pumped rhythmically, hard. But then, one of them collapsed like a rag doll, probably fainted. Another girl tripped over her. They didn't get up. The other 2 kept running. They were stronger than Lotus. She'd never pass them. The sun was murderously hot. Lotus felt weak and dizzy. On both sides, the blurry jungle swayed. The palm trees looked like monstrous heads on long, ribbed necks. They seemed evil, like they were hoping she would stumble and fall. Lotus staggered in the sandy soil. Long green snakes sunk their fangs into her legs. Or were they sharp jungle plants and vines? Everything was blurry. She fought back tears of despair. All of a sudden, Lotus felt a rush of cool air. She heard a forceful swooshing. She looked up. She saw a huge white creature with wings. It was Little Cloud. She recognized his twisted foot. But he was gigantic now. Her mouth fell open in awe. The bird had grown to many times his former size. He hovered above her, blocking out the sun. Was she going crazy? It seemed like a wild, impossible dream. "You're so big!" Lotus exclaimed. "I have grown as big as your heart," said the bird. Lotus quickly glanced down at her chest. The bird made a deep, soft laugh. "Hold still," he said. A giant claw smoothly snatched her up. Lotus felt herself lifted high above the jungle, rushing through the sky. The air was wonderfully cool. Down below, she could see the 2 leading runners. The giant bird passed them easily, and now he was diving. Before Lotus had time to think, she was set down gently just before the red finish banner. "Little Cloud is a pretty name," said the huge white bird, "but my name is Chenrezig." With that, he magically vanished. Lotus swayed unsteadily on her feet. She saw a crowd of wide-eyed, gaping people not far away. Had she really been flown here by a giant bird? Could the bird really talk like a person? What was next, a singing elephant? She giggled softly to herself. Lotus could see the finish line cut into the ground below the banner. She staggered weakly toward it. Her feet were so heavy. Her head was spinning. She almost fainted. She could hear the crowd of people shouting. Were they cheering for her? Using her last bit of strength, Lotus dragged herself across the finish line. The Queen sat on a marble throne beneath a canopy of leaves held by 2 soldiers. A 3rd soldier fanned her face. Seeing Lotus land, she cheered widely. She loved an exciting spectacle. But the chief soldier whispered in her ear, "Cheating is forbidden, Your Majesty. That skinny little girl has broken the rules." "What rules?" the Queen cried sharply. "There is only one rule, to pass the finish line. And she passed it, did she not? The scrawny little one has won. Bring her before me." "Yes, Your Majesty." Once again, Lotus felt herself lifted in the air, but not so high this time. A man with strong hands set her down before a marble throne. And high on the throne sat a dreamlike queen dressed in shimmering golden robes. Lotus wavered back and forth, but didn't fall. "What is your name, child?" the queen demanded. "Lotus, Your Highness." "Well done, Princess Lotus." The Queen smiled grandly, but then her smile faded. What was that enormous white creature? A friend, said Lotus. A friend? The Queen's eyes narrowed. You're not a witch, are you? No, Your Highness. Lotus tried not to giggle. Her head was clearer now. Well then, you can still be a princess, said the Queen. Give Princess Lotus some tasty food, she told the chief soldier. She looks weak. 4 months later, the Queen was stricken by jungle fever. Within a few days, she passed away. After her funeral, it was time for the feather drawing ceremony. Before the members of the royal court, all 21 princesses, including Lotus, were blindfolded by strips of black cloth. The chief soldier held a silver tray with 20 red feathers and a single white one. He solemnly shuffled them. Only after each princess had gropingly chosen a feather with the blindfolds removed. In her trembling little fist, Lotus clutched the white feather. The members of the royal court squawked like startled geese. Long live the new queen, they shouted. No one noticed the tiny white bird peering in a palace window. Lotus was almost afraid to breathe. The chief soldier stepped forward. Long live your majesty. Have you any orders now? Lotus gulped. This was happening so fast. She thought for a few moments. 3, she finally said. The people must pray more often to the great deities. My mother will live with me in the palace. And from now on, survival race will be changed to a feed the birds contest. I'll tell you the rules soon. The moral is, if you are generous and kind, happiness is not far behind.